Welcome back to another episode of Down to the Point podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Davion Moore. Got my boy Dennis Bajugo, and of course, I got the one and only Mitch DeVito. How you gentlemen doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys
excited
solid?
about. What'd you say?
You guys good?
I'm doing good. Can't complain, man.
Yeah, man, things are going great on my end. Enjoying this nice Colorado spring, almost summer weather, and yeah, man, can't complain at all. I guess I could, but nobody would give a shit, right?
Right, and the Nuggets are balling, so
Oh, there it is. 3 seconds in.
it's not a dig, man. They're balling.
Yeah,
Go Nuggets!
That was one game. It's a home game. The next one.
yeah,
They
we got this.
Yeah,
I'm not
we should have
sweating
it
it.
in
We
the
got
bag.
this. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you gentlemen here today. On today's episode, we're going to be chopping it up, talking about the amazing Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. You know, those two women have made their huge impact on women's basketball, starting with their college level, one being from Indiana, one being from LSU. These women have gone head to head in their daily competition against each other for multiple titles. Who has the most titles, though? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to be discussing interracial relationships. You see a lot of NFL, NBA, a lot of sports athletes, especially black men, dating outside their race. Why is that? I know I date outside my race. I know Dennis also. I know Mitch is in an intercultural relationship. So you're going to get our opinions on it and chop it up. We're also going to be talking about an end of an era, the NBA. We're seeing some of our favorite players getting pretty old now, I would say. LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant. We're going to see if these new players can keep up the hype and carry the NBA. What you guys think about these conversations?
I'm excited.
Excited. Can't wait, man.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've been
yes,
looking
yes.
forward to this for like over a week now, so I'm ready to hear what you guys have to say. Ready for Dennis to lose his cool and throw some shit. Let's do this.
All right, we're going to start out with the amazing Caitlin Clark. Of course, you guys seen her previous game. You know, when she was in the college scene, she was like balling, couldn't stop her. Now, she's kind of becoming a little bit humble. And I think it's humbled, right?
Mhm.
You don't think so? No? Why not?
It's a different game. It's the WNBA. She's in a horrible team. There's a reason they had that number 1 draft pick. know
That's a
what I
good
mean?
point. That's a good point.
She dropped 20 points. Her first game.
Mm.
She's still killing it. And
So
she's-
is the hype warranted then? Like her hype?
Hell yeah.
Hmm.
Hell yeah. And yeah, do you mind if I go first? Or
Do it. Go
Yeah.
for it.
It's definitely warranted and it's needed. She's done, and I hope this is not blasphemy, but there's a few players that come along that actually are trendsetters, and she's one of those players. You could look at Michael Jordan, you could look at Serena Williams, you could look at just all these players that have come before her, Muhammad Ali, Billie Jean King, Jackie Robinson, and you know what I mean? And Michael Jordan. Those players changed the game. She's one of those players. And I hope the commissioner of the WNBA gets behind her because she's the next best thing. She's changing this women's league. Most of us didn't even care, until a couple of weeks ago. The only time we talk about the WNBA is when we're talking about the homegirl that got arrested in Russia.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, Brittany Griner. Brittany
yeah,
Griner, yeah.
Brittany Griner.
That's the
So,
homegirl.
yeah, they really don't come up that much. She's changed that conversation. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that the commissioner doesn't give in to the woke culture and try to give attention to other players or trying to make it equal. Because if you give in to the woke culture, those people are going to go away. They're not going to stick. The fans that are watching right now, they're Iowa farmers. They're white people who didn't care about the black superstars before that are now invested and they're putting money into these games.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt she's had an insane impact on college to begin with, right? Her personality on court, the way that she acted, right? She brought in sects of fans that had never even really watched college sports before, right? Like this woman is not only the top scoring female college player, she is the top scoring college baller of all time. And like you were saying, Dennis, she's got, you know, her personality, right?
Mhm.
She's
Like a
like
Taylor Swift
Serena. She's
effect.
like, yeah, she's like Jordan in that way. She brings people into the game. She's
Yeah.
got swag, right? And so even to the point now where they're talking about getting jets, private flights for WNBA because she's
It's
so famous now that they can't take commercial flights, right?
Yeah.
Like she is, and that's a huge jump for the WNBA, right? And whether it came because of Caitlin Clark or someone else, I don't think that should matter. I think the WNBA, her fellow ballers, should feel happy and be appreciative of the fact that these changes are going to occur now because of her. It doesn't matter who it was that brought those changes. Oh, Davion, no, don't agree. Let's hear it.
That's like blasphemy for all those women that came before her. There were some greats that came before her. Lisa Leslie, what's the Candace I said Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Candace
Candace
Williams.
Candace
I'm sorry,
Parker,
yes,
yeah,
Candace
Candace
Parker.
Parker.
There's so many greats. Cheryl Swoop. There's
Yeah.
so many greats that came before her. So you telling me that all of a sudden, since she comes in, that they should all bow down and be thankful for her?
Yes.
I don't think so, because like
I'm-
on the other end of that, you still have, what's her name, Reese, who
Angel
played
Reese, yeah.
Angel Reese, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a double standard when it comes to her. Like I remember a few years ago during one of the games, you had Caitlin Clark who littled a little girl on the court. It was going against some little team. I don't know who they were. Some little team. She was talking mad shit. She was like, oh, she can't keep up, pretty much talking shit, being competitive. Don't got a problem with it whatsoever. Don't have any issues with it. 2 weeks later, Reese comes out there,
Yeah.
and she's playing against Caitlin Clark.
And she did it against Caitlin. She did that same
the
move.
highest competition. She goes
Yeah.
like this, flashing the ring. The next day, that same night, they're giving her shit, saying how she's unsportsmanlike, how she's this, how she's that.
Classless.
Classless. She's also contributed so much to this game.
She has.
That's great
Mhm.
for women, but she's not getting that recognition. We talked about
Caitlin-
the other.
But
Sorry?
Caitlin stepped up and gave her that recognition. Remember during that whole controversy? I know exactly what
Yes.
you're talking about.
Kudos
Caitlin
to
stepped
Caitlin.
up and was like, you know what? I can do that. Anyone can do that. It's part of the game. Like, I don't know, Davion. Like,
This is no
I'm not
Caitlin
saying
hate.
people should. I'm not saying people should bow down. Not in any way. Though saying it like that, like people should bow down and be grateful. I'm saying that they should be grateful those changes are happening. And if you look at any sport, there were black players that came before Jackie Robinson. There were black boxers before Muhammad
Not
Ali.
to do it like him, though.
But
And
it doesn't
and
take
the
their
argument is-
accomplishment away. It doesn't take their
doesn't.
accomplishment away because
at all.
because Caitlin stepping up to the plate and doing all of this and
Yeah.
being recognized does not devalue anyone that came before her.
But
But
those players feel devalued because
They
they
do. And
weren't getting this recognition. They
before,
weren't they weren't getting talked about. They weren't getting these private flights. They weren't getting these endorsement deals. They weren't getting these televised
change
games.
has to start
They weren't
somewhere,
doing
man.
It needs to
anything.
start somewhere, and it's starting with her.
And I
They-
and sorry,
the
go ahead.
The charter flights, it's a thing now. As of last
some,
week,
for
2
not
weeks.
all, though.
No, it is a thing for all 12 teams. Now they
No.
have it. It is.
Yes,
It was
that's
announced
when.
yesterday.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
announced
with
yesterday.
Dennis.
Okay,
It's coming
Yeah.
out. It's coming out in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
for
he's
all
right.
the teams. She
Yep.
changed that because of her stardom. There's a couple of teams in the WNBA now who are going to play in bigger arenas this year because of how much attention she's putting towards the game. And I think the fact that people, her last preseason game drew in 2.1 million viewers. You know what I mean? The average game, NBA game, is 1.4 million.
Jeez.
People are tuning in, and
Yeah.
these are people who are actually paying tickets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're coming to the games, they're supporting the WNBA. These are people who would have never cared for a black superstar.
And you got to give it to Caitlyn. If you want anybody to be that person, the person who is making the change that she didn't ask for, right?
She didn't.
All she did was get drafted like every other baller before her. If you want anyone in that position, it's Caitlyn, because she is an ally. She stands up for everybody. These changes, she is going to make those comments of Angel Reese should be respected just like I should be respected.
Yeah.
This should have come before me. I'm glad that it's me. But like, she's going to be an amazing spokesperson for that change. Whereas there could be some other stars who wouldn't give two shits or would just take the credit for themselves and not push that forward. Caitlyn's not like that. So yes, is it unfortunate that it took this long for these changes to happen? Yes, is it unfortunate that there were mad ballers that came before her that didn't get recognized? Absolutely. It's messed up. But like Dennis just said, change has to start somewhere. And at least that change is occurring, and you're going to see it accelerate in huge fashion. If Caitlyn keeps balling this way, if Angel keeps balling this way, these changes, this opened a door. It's just going to keep going from here. You know, she's got a long time in this league, you know? And so I think personally, everything that happened between Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark was messed up. Angel's induction into the WNBA, her ceremony in the high school gym, whereas Caitlyn's was broadcast on TV. All of that was jacked up.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this question then. Do you think race has anything to do with that?
100%.
Everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can't. Devian, we know racism exists. You and I do. We see it on a daily basis. But I don't think who cares why those people are buying the seats? They see somebody who looks like them and they want to support that. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. And they should be allowed to do that. So we shouldn't cry and say, what about our superstar? You know what I mean? And I think it's the same thing with Black Lives Matter. When Black Lives Matter was going on, we were like, some white people were saying, all lives matter. We're like, no. But right now we're dealing with this. This is what we're dealing with. It's Caitlyn's moment. You know what I mean? We should let the girl shine and support it, because what she's doing is opening up and bringing a different crowd that wasn't watching before. That's probably going to stick around. Let her do that. Guess who's benefiting? All these other players, all the black players are going to benefit from her shining.
There's not room for everybody, though.
Look at this. So I look at it like Elvis Presley, right? Like rock and roll, blues, that existed for decades before Elvis Presley came on the scene. But black artists were not accepted. They were not digestible to the community. They weren't allowed to perform. If they did, they were looked down on, saying they're being hypersexual, they're degrading society. Elvis Presley came along, and because he was a white guy, right, who was doing that same kind of music, it was more accepted. And now, decades later, hip hop is a genre at the Grammys. You know what I'm saying? Like now hip hop is a part of everyday life. Blues, black artists are a part of everyday life. And that started with, it's unfortunate that you have to make it digestible for people like that. It's gross that society works that way, but it's the way that it works. And this Caitlyn Clark is to the WNBA what Elvis Presley was to rock and roll. She's making it digestible to audiences. And a decade from now, that is going to be totally different. The WNBA will probably never be as big as the NBA, let's be honest, but it's going to be much bigger than it is right now. These girls are going to be getting bigger contracts, better endorsements, better living conditions, better respect, right? And that's starting here with Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Can we just point out the fact that Elvis was a culture vulture, though?
Okay, he also grew up in an all-black neighborhood surrounded by black families and black neighbors and black friends.
Musicians their credit, though. He stole a lot of their music and never gave them the proper credit for it.
Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of vultures, Jay-Z has a line where he goes, I'll show you how to move in a room full of vultures.
Yeah.
I think Angel Reese, people take that comment and think different things about it. Kanye, who probably produced that song took it and thought it meant be yourself. You know what I mean? Which, if you're a prick, it's not good advice. But I think for Angel Reese, yeah, it sucks that you walked into a gym and they didn't roll out the red carpet for you. And you're a baller. You're going to be a Hall of Famer. Keep doing what you're doing. Get yourself a team that speaks for you. You know what I mean? Because we already know this thing is happening. Whatever you want to name it, let him speak for you. When it comes out of her mouth and she's the one defending herself, she just comes off like she's entitled.
Yeah,
You know
arrogant
what I mean?
and rude,
Arrogant.
and yeah. Mhm.
But that sucks though, because a lot of black women have to feel that way, like they can't speak up for themselves because of the way they come off as, oh, she has an attitude, or she's coming across as super aggressive. Then they have to take a backseat to their own. They have to humble themselves down and say, you know what,
Yeah,
I can't speak up for myself, because who gives a fuck how it's perceived?
Yeah, I think that's something the
that's
black
women.
community.
That's women in general too.
Yeah, and the black community too. I think it's the black community
I'm not
too,
gonna
right?
say, I'm never gonna say women though. Yes, I understand it is women, but particularly black women. A lot of black women come off as they have an attitude problem when it's not. They don't have an attitude problem. They're very determined to be heard and be understood.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead, Mitch.
I was just going to say, look at Hillary Clinton, right? That was one of the biggest things that she struggled with when she was running for president, though. So just to make an argument to Dennis's point that it's all women, right? Like when Hillary was running, she had to wear pantsuits, because if she was wearing skirts or blouses and stuff like that, they didn't take her seriously, and they constantly used the B word when she opened her mouth, right? They constantly were calling her a bitch because she was stern and strict and to the point. So when women act like that in a professional space, it's very common that they get called a bitch or mean, right? And so I think it is all women that have to deal with that unfortunate stigma.
I don't, and it's from a personal experience of me. I have a black mother. I have a black aunt. I see them on a daily basis. I see what they interact with on a daily basis. I interact with black women on a daily basis. I work with black women on a daily basis. I hear their stories on a daily basis of what they have to interact with. I dated two, my whole life I dated two black women. And I see that. So like I'm gonna pull the card here and say, no, it's not all women. Yes, women do struggle as a whole, and yes, what you guys said is accurate. But in this situation, we're talking about a black woman and their struggle and how they have to put their feelings to the back seat and take a back seat to everybody else's feelings because they come across as being aggressive.
But with Caitlin Clark, it's a different situation. She's changing the game. She's bringing eyes.
Correct. But we're talking about
to try to dilute it and say, let's watch everybody. It's not going to work. Those eyes are going to go away. So seize the moment while you have it. And the thing about black women, when I moved up to when I moved from the mountains, when I was in the mountains, there was not a lot of black people to interact with. But when I moved back to Loveland, I started interacting with more people. And some of the people I interacted with, I had to go to people's houses and try to sell them on things. And the families where they had black women, like this dynamic of a black woman with a son, it's really dangerous.
Right.
I went to one house where they threatened to shoot me. You know what I mean?
Who threatened to shoot you? A black
woman? The kid
woman?
threatened to shoot me, and the woman was like, "What the heck are you doing here?" She used vulgar words. And I noticed it. It happened quite a bit. And I even had to drive to Mombello, where I'm like, why does this keep happening with our community? Like, why do they feel like I'm a person? I'm black, but they feel like, I didn't invite you to my door. Why the heck are you knocking on my door? And they're already hyper aware, and they're already at 100, not knowing exactly what I'm trying to sell them on. And you knock on a white woman's door, she doesn't address you the same way. You know what I mean?
But and the issue is that, do you stop to think about that black woman's history though?
I do. I'm very much aware of how we as black people are hyper aware. You know what I mean? I had a good friend of mine recently he was going on vacation. He gave me a call and wanted me to help him out with his business, and he wanted me to help him out with the schedule. He's like, "Hey, can you reach out to my guys in the field and do this?" I'm like, "Cool." Well, I was in charge of the schedule. I made a couple different things to the schedule. There's a black guy, didn't realize he was black, but I changed the schedule, and he didn't know a black person did it. And when he was talking to me, he's like, "Hey, man, there's a lot of politicking going on in this company, blah, 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 blah." And he thought it was something that was getting done to him that was racial, and it wasn't. But I get that mindset. He's just hyper aware of any foolery going on. You know what I mean? And I'm the same way. I recently went to a wedding venue and we were checking it out, and this girl didn't look at me once. You know what I mean? I think I shared that story with you, Davion.
Yeah.
And I was hyper aware of it, and I mentioned it to Catherine, and and her mom was there too, and they see it differently. But I'm aware of it. You know what I mean? And it could be happening, it could not be happening. But I think there's some things that we take as Black people because we're hyper aware that may not be happening, because I catch myself doing it too.
So let me ask you this: to that point, at that moment, did you feel as if that was actually happening to you?
I think I still believe it to this day that it happened.
So do you think that other Black people just overthink and is not always accurate as to what they're going through?
I think sometimes you catch somebody on a bad day, or she could have been through a situation where she just has a problem with males. You know what I mean? And it could not be a race thing. Maybe that's why she didn't feel comfortable looking at me. It could be a number of things, but I walked away thinking that it's me and my skin color, and she gave the other two people the time of day.
Say something real quick, and this is kind of like been my experience. I grew up in South Central LA. When I was 15, obviously I moved to Colorado. My whole world changed moving to Colorado. Being in South Central LA, I didn't interact with white people. It wasn't in my neighborhood. There wasn't many white people. There was just Blacks, Hispanics, and a few other maybe Asian people. Wasn't many white people in my neighborhood. I moved to Colorado, and I tell people Colorado is where I became a man at. I learned so much. It opened my eyes. It had me interacting with people that I never, imagined that I'll deal with, like going to people homes that I never thought I'll be at, like nice ass homes, big ass mansions and shit. So when I left there, my eyes were very much open. I've seen the world I would say that I was very trusting. I came back to California, Nevada, and I seen race. Like I seen how people look at you. And the reason why I'm saying this is getting outside of Colorado made me realize, because people in Colorado are some of the fucking friendliest people you will ever come across. They will trust you with their fucking babies. And leaving there, it made me realize that not everybody is as trusting as some of the people I met out there. Yeah. So it changed my perspective on a lot of things, and my interaction with people that I had started changing, and that's why I am the way I am, and that's why I feel the way I feel about certain things, because it was like Colorado had me in this bubble of a fantasy world. Like, oh, I wish all people were like just as nice. I came across out here, there's white people that would not look at me in my eyes, call me boy. There's all types of shit that I had to experience. So my interaction with all these other cultures made me the way that I am. And I love coming back to Colorado because I can be in that fantasy again of just like, I can put my guard down as a Black man and not be super defensive or have to worry about how someone is looking at me or how someone is talking to me.
Yeah. And to add on to that, I don't mean to say that Black women don't have it hard, because I believe as a Black man, I have it hard. Black women have it even harder.
Yeah.
because the stereotypes that go with black women are awful. You know what I mean? So they have to fight that on a daily basis of like, you're this, you're that, you're that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a lot they have to overcome. So I don't
Yeah.
want that to go unspoken.
I mean, according to
And
the
that
United
was the point
States
of me saying
Census.
that. And that was the point. Sorry, Mitch. I'm gonna give me 1 second.
No.
That was the point of why I was so defensive when I was like, no, it's not an all women thing, because there's there's white women that can go in the workplace and don't have to put forth as much. They have to put forth more of an effort than the male do. I will admit that, but they don't have to put forth as much of an effort all the time. Not going to say every situation all the time, as some black women have to put forth.
Yeah, according to the U.S. Census demographic study, black women are by far the most discriminated group in the United States of America.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, I guess it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and how the changes that we're going to see in the WNBA and the changes that we're going to see on how people are treated and salaries. And I'm looking forward to seeing the impact. And I certainly hope that it's for the better of the sport and all people who participate in it. Watching Caitlin is incredible. It's super fun. Watching Angel is incredible. It's super fun. And I think regardless of how it happened, there is a lot more attention on the WNBA right now. And I think Caitlin being that person is going to share that mantle and open up a lot of doors. And hopefully, because that's not her responsibility to do that, right? Like, she doesn't have to do that. We shouldn't put that on her shoulders. But hopefully those changes, those systemic changes, start occurring for people like Angel Reese, because it's in the news more, because it's under a microscope and we're watching it more. Hopefully those changes start to come about without Caitlin Clark being the one that has to push that.
Yes. So that kind of goes hand in hand with, our next conversation I want to go into about interracial relationships. Some of our favorite movie stars, athletes are in interracial relationships. So I stopped and asked myself a lot of times, you see the NFL draft recently, there's always those few black guys that have those beautiful white women next to them, and you stop and think like, damn, why is that? What's you guys take on this? Do you guys see that, or is it just me?
I see it. I see it a lot.
Isn't there like, I've never specifically seen this written down or anything before, but I've heard this comment made before where they say that black sports stars, certain black celebrities, they date black women until they get famous, and then when they get famous, they drop the black women and start dating white women.
It's a thing, but I think there's some myth to this. You know what I mean? As somebody who's in an interracial relationship, I get it, and I'm like, I'm in it. Black people actually date other black people, like at a higher rate. Probably not more than white people, but they're second up. You know what I mean?
Is it a study proven?
The pure research study shows that 82% of black people marry other black people. So the number they're talking to you about is really, really small. You know what I mean? The more white men dating Latino women, that's the people who are dating outside their race. And then white women dating Latino men, that's the other group. And then you have white men dating Asian women, and black men dating white women.
So it's on the bottom of...
So it's on the bottom, yeah. White, like, we name all our white friends, apart from Mitch. Most of them are dating a Latino person. That's at 42%. Black people dating white women, that's 11%. But we make it this big vocal thing. You know what I mean? But
why do you think? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Why do you think? Going back to Mitch's point, why do you think that when there's like a celebrity or athlete, they tend to, because for instance, well, no, that's vice versa. I was gonna say, Wilson,
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He dated a white girl when he first got drafted, and then he switched up to Sierra. So it's kind of like vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, for somebody who's black, who people have seen me at church and said, there's a black lady who asked me, she was African, who asked me to marry an African girl. You know what I mean?
She asked you that?
Yeah, she told me, like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, marry somebody like you, like who's gonna take care of you. And I just have one of those faces, or I'm just easy to approach, and people feel the need to tell me shit like that. Like, yeah, people really do. Like, hey, let me give you some advice. You know, so it was one of those situations where she was
to fuck off.
Right.
No, I listened to her because to her it's valid, but I'm also I live in Colorado. I've been at a lot of jobs where I'm the only black person. I've only had one job where there was a black person on staff. You know what I mean? Most jobs that I've had, there's never a black woman on staff. So I interact with a lot of white women just in my day to day. So most of them are marrying people they're going to college with. People are just, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Colorado, and this is a fact. I talk about this on my tour. Colorado has the least minority population. Denver has the least minority population of any city in North America. Less than half of 1% of our population is black. And so, Dennis, what you're talking about is an issue with the state altogether. Like, the reason you're constantly one of the only black people in your workplace is because Denver, Colorado just doesn't have very many black people in comparison to white people.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember being out there, me and Dennis were always the token black guys at party.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like we were a fucking show or something.
Yeah,
like,
right?
Gosh.
look, there's black guys. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna see if they like us. So it's always weird. But I think going to the point of like celebrities dating white women, it's kind of like in a black community. And I don't know why it's like that, but it's kind of like, you reach a level of success when you go back like a fine ass like white woman.
Yeah.
In some people's eyes,
In some people's eyes.
Yeah, that's how it's looked at. Like, oh, I've reached success when I can.
You're saying that's a mentality in the black community? Some black men believe?
It's perceived.
No.
It's perceived to be
looked at that way.
Yeah, and yeah, it's looked at that way. And
no, that's not what we're saying.
LeBron James's kid, Bronny, got a lot of hate when he took a white girl to prom, and I think that is you have Dr. Umar, who is pro Africanism, pro Pan Africanism, which is like supposed to be black unity, but with the way he does it, it's borderline racist. You know what I mean? He calls it bunny hopping when people date white women. You know what I mean?
Seriously?
Yeah, he really does. And he actually even had a problem with Miles Morales in Spider-Man having a white girlfriend.
Like a fictitious cartoon.
Exactly. And to me, it went with the story that they needed to tell. You know what I mean? It was part of the story that they were creating.
Yeah.
But the black community, like Devian on the last pod was saying that he gets a lot of looks with his wife. And I find that I get a lot of looks, and this was confirmed when I looked it up, from black people. Black people are twice as much to disapprove of interracial dating, of seeing you with a white person.
That's a really interesting comment. So you're saying that you feel that both white and black people judge an interracial relationship, right? But that black people are more judgmental than white people when they see a black man with a white woman. I think that's a really fascinating
it's
comment.
18% to 9%.
But so that has to be for different reasons, right? Like, so a black person is being more judgmental because they feel that you should be with another black person to help your race, to support your race, to uplift your people. Whereas I think we can probably agree that when a white person is looking at an interracial relationship and judging it, they're looking at it like, you're disgusting, you're degrading our society, you're degrading our culture, right? Like, so looking at it and being judgmental, but for two different reasons.
Yeah, I think black
It's
people.
more accepting. It's more accepting in a black community for a black person. I feel, in my opinion, to date Hispanic than to date white.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
It's-
I'd agree with that.
It's more
Yeah.
accepting.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know if I was to bring a white girl home to my, I said to my wife's house, I wouldn't bring a white girl home.
I'm bringing a
If
third
I was-
person into this
Ooh, don't talk
marriage.
about
I don't
if
think
I
it
was-
matters what race they are, you're in trouble.
Prior to me getting married, if I was to ever bring a white girl home, my mom would probably give me a side eye and we'd have a conversation after dinner. It wouldn't be a conversation like she doesn't approve. She'll just tell me the challenges that comes along with that. That's she's like, are you ready for this, this, and that?
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
now
I
as,
mean-
now as an adult, I'm aware of those, but back then, that's the conversation I would have been had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I'm in an intercultural relationship. I have dated outside my race on several occasions, right? And those challenges that you're talking about, Davion, Dennis, right? Like, Dennis, you had mentioned that Catherine's parents gave her a similar kind of comment, letting her know that it was going to be difficult for her, right? And so I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Like, so my wife is a Russian Christian, and in the Russian community, they don't really date outside the Russian community. It's very, very rare that a Russian woman dates an American or marries an American. In fact, I was the first American marriage in their family. I was the first non-Christian and the first non-Russian to marry into the family. And it created, and still does create, all kinds of issues, right? It can be extremely challenging, to the point where before we got married, one of Sen's uncles literally pulled her to the side and offered to pay for her to go to Europe for 2 years, that he would buy her ticket, he would pay her rent, and he would pay her cost of living out there to get away from me, to say, no, don't marry this guy, and get away from him, right? Like, that's how adamant they were. Do you think that the challenges posed by dating someone outside of your race are so significant that it would make interracial relationships not worth it?
No.
Would you say that you deal with those issues on a daily basis in your relationships because you've chosen to date outside of your race? Is this something that you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah, I would agree. We had a trip where we were in Brick, and Catherine was having a bad day. I'm sure I had something to do with it, and she was crying, and we're at a restaurant. I was like, "Whoa, this is like, you cannot do this to me. You cannot cry in this restaurant with a black guy." You know what I mean? Just the way that comes off. Like, we can talk about whatever is going on after this. So there's those dynamics that you have to face. And when I was telling you guys, you have black people who are disapproving because there's this push that when you're not dating somebody of your own race who's black, you're actually exercising self-hate, So there's all these things that come up that make it hard to be, that it would be much easier if you're in a relationship with somebody of your own color. You know what I mean? But
I mean,
those people are hard to come by. You know what I mean?
It's
I mean,
serious.
I had an experience in college before I met Sen where there was a black girl in my class who I found out through the grapevine had made a comment that she thought I was cute, that she had a crush on me. And so I waited a couple of months, saw how it was going to go between the two of us, if we were going to hit it off, if we got along, stuff like that. I was like, we are. She's laughing at all my jokes. She's clearly interested in talking to me. I'm going to give this a shot. And I asked her, and her response was, there's no way I could bring a white boy home. I'm sorry. Yes, I think you're cute. Yes, I think you're funny. Yes, I would date you, but I can't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
it's like that.
it seems there are people out there who that barrier is significant enough that they're not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that do you think there's a significant amount of people in the Black community who would date outside their race but aren't doing it because of that stigma, because they just don't want to deal with the backlash? Or do you think genuinely the larger portion of the Black community just doesn't think it's a good idea, just doesn't want to do it, wants to date their own race?
I think it comes down to how people, even as adults, we feel pressure from our peers. And I think it comes down to how it's perceived to other people around them. Like, a lot of questions may be asked from Black and white sides. Like, how do I bring a white boy home? How do I bring a white boy home around my family? Vice versa.
Mhm.
How do I bring a white girl around? But it's a little easier, I think, to bring a white girl around than to bring a white boy home.
I was just going to
especially
ask
as
that.
a woman, because you're already a Black woman, and then you have to explain this to possibly your Black father, your Black brother, and these Black men in your life. It's not as the mother is more accepting than the father in some cases. So it's that explanation that comes along with it. And in some situations, it's better off to not have to explain yourself than to just, you know what, let me just go ahead and date somebody who's right here, who looks just like me, who I don't have to give an explanation as to why I'm dating them, as to why I'm in love.
So just avoiding it just to avoid the complications
some
that come to make your
situations,
life easier.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah, and
In some situations.
yeah, I see it when I lived in Aurora, right by Smoky Hill. You would see a lot of white girls dating Black guys, but that number changes the older they get. Like, you know what I mean? When the high school, middle school, that's a thing. But something happens on the college level where they start separating. You know what I mean? I don't
Do
know
you
if
think
that.
it's like they're sowing their wild oats and not looking at that person seriously? Like, this might not be the person I marry. I'm in college. I'm having fun. I'm going to be experimental. And then the person that I am going to marry when I grow up and mature, for lack of a better term.
Exactly. I don't know if it's they're rebelling towards their parents, or that what was once cool is no longer cool. You know what I mean? But I hope we move towards a way where we look at each other and just say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who makes me happy.
Right.
I'm looking to fall in love, not for these other reasons. I'm not putting boundaries on who that person that's going to meet those criteria is,
I think we're talking about being woke, right? Like, this is a theme on our podcast consistently, and I have a feeling it's going to continue to be. We're talking about this idea of, the world moving forward, the world being woke versus forced wokeism, right?
Yeah.
And to me, the idea that somebody just dates the person they want to date. I get it. I think I understand the history that comes with interracial dating and why that's complicated, why that can be problematic, supporting your own community, right? Like showing love to your own community and uplifting each other. I totally get that. But I feel like moving along, evolving in how we view race, moving past racism, we need to get to a point where people don't fear that. Like, people don't fear, like, I'm not going to date this person because I'm afraid of the ramifications, or I'm not going to date this person because I don't want to be looked at in a certain way. Like, I wonder if the day will ever come where we don't look at it like that. We just say what you just said, Dennis. I'm with this person because this person gets me, which is hard enough to find in the first place.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to find someone who truly gets you and will be with you through everything. And I think all three of us can speak on that, because all three of us have been in situations where our behavior has not been amazing, and the people that we are with is still with us and loving us and supporting us. That's not easy to find. And so if you find that in someone, anyone, I hope we get to a point where that becomes what matters, because I think that could advance racial relationships to begin with. People are just being people. It's not this person is being Black, this person is being white, this person is just being a human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think
Let me.
we need
Sorry.
to stop
Go ahead.
shaming. We need to stop shaming people. And it's big on Black Twitter where, you know, LeBron James's kid got it. A lot of NFL players get it every time they're getting drafted, which there could be I've heard somebody say that some of them do it for the reasons that are, you know what I mean? They're in college. They have that NL deal. The black girl will ask, "Hey, can you take care of my hair? Can you do this? Can you pay for this?" And the white girl will say, "Hey, do you want to go eat?" She'll pay for the meal. She'll pay for Starbucks. Well, you know what I mean? Like, so you're getting expectations from the black woman, and for the white woman, those expectations of like, hey, you give me your money because we're dating. You know what I mean? And that those expectations are not there, which I would like to believe that that's just who is in their immediate environment. You know what I mean? That's who they're seeing
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis. That's who's in their chemistry class. They're interacting with more white people. So the odds of them ending up with a white girl is that's who they're
Just
interacting with.
falling in love with
Yeah.
your community, with the
Yeah.
people that you're surrounded by
That's
every
who
day.
the
Right?
cheerleader is. That's the person who is
That's
in
a tutor that helps
yeah,
you.
yeah. That's the tutor that helped you. That's the girl at the floor
That's
at
the
the
athletic
party.
department trainer.
And so do
Yeah.
you agree with the idea when, because I've heard this said by black women before, you know, like there's very few amazing black men, there's very few super successful black men, and you're taking him from us. This
That's
fucking white
bullshit.
woman is taking that good black man from us.
That's bullshit.
Right.
The ones they're looking for being taken. There's plenty of people out there. They're looking for the stereotype of when you hear women say that are the ones looking for the football players to athletes. There's plenty of black men out there in the IT field and fucking the AI and all pharmaceuticals who got fucking bank. Like
Yeah.
they're not all taken. The ones you're going for and the place you're in is just taken. Change your environment and you can possibly change your outcome.
Exactly. And also, I will say to my fellow black women, we need to uplift our black men. You know what I mean? There's this we down black women tend to downplay black men. You know what I mean? They have names they're just demeaning. You know what I mean? And we need to uplift each other. So I think some black men go out looking for women who are uplifting. If that makes any sense.
It's a
Stop being so hard on me. Stop being so down on me. Stop making huge expectations. And like, we're just look at me like any other relationship.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Divian, I don't know if you remember me wearing sandals at the mall.
No, stop. I was about to just tell that story.
Okay, I gotta hear this. I
was just about to tell that story. Me and Dennis had just started hanging out. We went to the mall. I think it was Aurora Mall. We went to the mall. We're walking through. He was comfortable, you know. He had on some sandals with some sweats or some shit, you know, real comfortable. Yeah. We're walking through. We walk past these girls. They're sitting on a bench or something, and they start laughing at him because he has sandals on, and like started like clowning him because he had sandals on and shit. And I look at the bitch and I tell her, I says, "All right, Chewbacca," or some shit like that.
You said looking like Chewbacca's little sister.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But like it's shit like that though. Like that a black man can't be comfortable in his own body. I can't just wear some sandals without you making fun of me because we're in a black neighborhood. It's the Aurora community. It's the Aurora Mall. Yeah. So like they see it's women like that that want a man. I want some Jordans. I want you with some jeans.
Exactly.
I want you with a nice shirt. It's like no, like I wear that shit, but at the same time, I'll wear my fucking Crocs with no socks on. Yeah. I wear all that shit.
Stop putting these high expectations on me.
Because then as soon as that man put them expectations on you, you cave.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just a fucking person. Yeah, you just cave.
Then that gets back into the woke movement where you're like, you're treating me like an object and all I am is a sexual thing to you. All I am is your property, right? But in the reverse, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Because all they see is objects. Because and then a man, what I see on you is what? I see your fake eyelashes, your fake extensions. I see this makeup you have on.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I call that out on you, then
Derogatory.
oh, you're wrong, you're disrespecting me, you're this, you're that.
Mhm.
But when my boy wears sandals to the mall and he's comfortable,
Yeah.
he can afford all these fucking Jordans.
Yeah.
But that's not what he's comfortable in. So why is it the expectation is different for us than it is for you?
Exactly. And I think that's a big thing of that we need to do as a community, of just uplifting each other. It's already tough out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having somebody empower you instead of clowning you, which I don't know if it's in our culture where we feel like we're just teasing each other, saying somebody ain't shit or shit like that.
It's a defense mechanism.
You think so?
I think it's a defense mechanism for the lack of comfortability that they have in themselves.
Yeah.
So you're going to look for something that you don't feel good about yourself and make fun of someone else to deflect it off of you so that person can't see your true flaws.
Yeah. And that's rare in the white community as far as women. They don't do that to black men. So some black men would be doing it for those reasons.
I will agree on that one.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I think as men, we can all agree that there's nothing wrong with putting expectations on us, right? As a man, like, we need to meet certain expectations. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of our families, our relationships. We need to be a man in a lot of ways, right? Work hard, be motivated, grow, be compassionate, all of that stuff. But at least the woman that I ended up marrying, the women before her, they just didn't respect that. They didn't appreciate that. They were always asking for more, always putting this stuff on my shoulders, always making me feel a ton of pressure. Like, my wife now doesn't do that to me. She has expectations of how I should behave and things that I should be doing and stuff like that, but she never shames me. She never puts so much weight on my shoulders where I feel like, oh man, she doesn't have a nice enough car. We're not going on vacation enough. We're not taking enough trips. I'm not giving her that Prada bag. I'm not taking her shopping enough. Like, she never puts any of that pressure on me. The important thing in our relationship is building, spending more quality time with each other, ensuring the moments that we have together are longer and more quality. That's the pressure that she puts on me in a relationship, is to grow emotionally as a man and to grow our relationship, our bond together. And that's why I married her, because that's her priority. Like, I'll never forget the first time we were biking through Cheeseman Park and we saw those big houses, those most expensive houses in the Denver metropolitan area. And I pointed at one while we were biking and I was like, someday, babe, someday I'll give that to you. And I knew I was going to marry her when she looked back at me and said, oh, I don't need any of that. I just want to spend time with you.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that, as men, that's what we're looking for in a relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Anybody got any final thoughts before we move on to?
No, really enjoyed it.
I just think the only thing I want to say is that this is what the podcast is all about. I enjoy the fact that the three of us can create this space to talk about these sort of things, because they're not easy to talk about, right? It could be very easy to offend someone. It could be very easy to say the wrong thing. And I appreciate you guys being in a space to be able to have this conversation safely and just say what the fuck we want to say.
I agree. Thank you guys for giving us this space.
Yeah.
But on a little lighter note, as we all know, all good things must come to an end. With James, Curry, and Durant being out the playoffs, the young fellas are in there. And I would say, in my opinion, doing a pretty good job at taking on that torch and carrying on that legacy. Right now, we got the Denver Nuggets, Mitch, you boys in there. It's Game 7, going up against the Timberwolves, and we got Boston, who just eliminated who? Who was that they just eliminated? Was that
Cleveland?
Cleveland, yes.
Heat before that, right?
Yes.
Heat before that,
and then of course we got New York. Man,
it's looking tough.
Actually, I'm rooting for them boys. I'm rooting for New York.
Me too, man.
I would love to see a championship come back to New York.
Yeah, go Knicks.
Knicks, go Knicks. So, what's you guys' thoughts on James, Curry, and Durant? Three of the main faces of the NBA. not being a part of this super exciting playoff race that we're seeing right now? Mitch?
It's bittersweet, man. It's bittersweet. It's we were texting with each other the other day during one of the playoff games after it ended, and we were talking about the idea of how many superstars are in the NBA right now, right? Like, we're watching Ant-Man and Jokic and like all these amazing players, the new upper echelon of players, and it's super enjoyable to watch. These guys take the game. Jokic, are you kidding me? He takes the game to a ridiculous level, right? Like, Ant-Man, the way that guy balls out, if he had a better support around him, he would be unstoppable, right? Like, it's enjoyable to watch these guys play. But at the same time, it makes me feel old, man, because the guys that we grew up with that changed the NBA, they're fading out, and it's their sunset time, man. So on the one hand, I'm enjoying the fact that they're still there, and I still get to see these guys that I worshiped growing up play. But at the same time, when we hear LeBron in these interviews post game, when we hear Kevin Durant in his interview on that Netflix special with David Letterman talk about these comments where they're saying, in the end, it's just basketball and I play a kid's game. And like, you can tell that these men are maturing, they're aging, and they're looking to the next phase of their life. Basketball is not going to be the main priority of their lives anymore. And that it's cool to see in a maturity aspect, of a growth aspect of this person is a human being, right? And seeing them grow through the different phases. We literally watched LeBron go through the phases of his life. He was a kid. He was a legitimate kid. And now he's a dad with multiple kids entering the NBA. And we watched that progression on television, right? We watched him grow up. So it's cool to see that, but it's really sad to see that this is it for these guys that we have worshipped and watched them, fade away and leave the game that they had such an impact on, especially like the reason basketball championships are so important to us, the fan, is because in our lifetime, realistically, we're not going to get very many of them, right? Like, if the Nuggets win another championship this year, like, chances are 2 championships in a 2-year period. Look at the New York Giants, for instance. I got 2 Super Bowls in a 5-year period, and now they have yet to barely even make the playoffs. Like, you only get so many of these moments in life, right? And so it's sad to know that we won't see these guys in that position again.
Yes. Dennis?
For me, the era ended when Kobe stopped playing, So I remember basketball when I didn't know any other thing but Kobe, because I started watching it because of him and when he retired. But most people would say that's LeBron for them, because since they've been watching basketball, LeBron has been playing. But it couldn't be in better hands with all the superstars that we have, from Luka to Jokic to Giannis, Joel, Tatum, just so many great players right now. I would even go as far as to say that this is the golden age of basketball.
Oh, wow.
And in this, as we're watching it, we're also seeing Anthony Edwards just coming to his own, who's probably, to me, he reminds me so much of Jordan and Kobe, in a small way, not to the point that he's so invested in it, because I don't think any of these kids are invested like those guys were, but with him, I see it when he's talking trash to KD, one of his heroes. But I would say it's an end of an era, goodbye era, and the new era is probably going to be that much better for it, because there's just way too many superstars now.
Well, you just made a comment, Dennis, that said you don't think any of these young guys are as passionate about it as like a LeBron, a Kobe. Do you believe that's true? There's no one in the league that takes basketball as seriously as Kobe or LeBron did?
I would even put LeBron in that category.
Yeah, I agree.
LeBron
I would take LeBron in that category.
Yeah, I agree.
I would just leave that in the Kobe Jordan category.
Yeah. I think they have some so many other businesses going on. KD is in Silicon doing a whole bunch of, IT things.
KD wants to be a rapper.
Yeah, they're just doing other
He could
things.
rap.
I mean, even the best basketball player right now, in Jokic,
Horse farmer.
he doesn't care about basketball. You know what I mean?
But that just shows you the pure talent that these kids have.
Yeah,
and
they're
if they
better.
if they took it as serious as Kobe,
Yeah,
I think about how better they would be.
exactly.
If they put that mentality and because they got pure talent.
They do.
Pure talent is there.
Yeah.
It's beyond there.
Yeah.
Now, if you just take that work mentality and drill it into them like a Kobe, man, they're fucking killers.
Yeah.
In a not in a literal sense.
I mean, Ant-Man's 22 years old. He's a kid.
He is.
Right? I mean, he is only going to get even more incredible. I look forward to watching him grow, but I agree with you. Kobe Bryant, Jordan had a natural talent that can't be argued. They had a natural talent, but that was just a piece of it. They took that natural talent and dedicated their waking lives to honing their craft, and that is what put them on another level, right? We watched The Last Dance with Jordan, and we see how seriously he took basketball, flying to Vegas to get Dennis Rodman out of Vegas back to a game. Like it was not just his job, it was his identity, and he took it super seriously. And I think I agree with you, Dennis. I don't see anyone in the league where it appears that they take it to that serious of a level.
I think it's kind of like sad to see this era come to an end. Like Dennis says, basketball for me kind of died after Kobe retired. It just wasn't the same, just because I got spoiled with Kobe. You saw the dedication he put into every game, no matter if he was hurt, no matter if he had the flu, he was in between court cases and flying back in the middle of halftime just to make the game. Like, when he died, or when he retired, especially when he died, basketball it didn't hit the same. That's why some of these times in the conversations in the group chat you guys be talking, I don't reply back to that because I can't relate, because I don't watch it as much anymore, just because it doesn't appeal to me. It's like I'll catch like the playoffs here and there, highlights, but just to watch an NBA game, I haven't done that in over 6-7 years.
And you're saying that's directly because of the loss of Kobe, or just how the game has changed all the way around?
Directly because Kobe retired, not necessarily his death, because he retired. And when he retired, basketball just wasn't the same. It was too cliquish. It was like there was never like nobody was afraid of each other. Everybody was just boys. Like, I want to see some rivals. I want to see when we come out here, I don't like you. I want to see that. Basketball it changed. So it's a mixture of both. Kobe leaving and then it just getting soft.
Do you think so? There you go. You just said it, soft. Do you think that players have gotten expectant and spoiled as compared to somebody like a Jordan, somebody like a Kobe? Like, I'll give you the example of when LeBron hit the record when he was playing with Oakland, when he was playing against OKC. They literally stopped the game in the middle of the game to interview him. Like, literally in the middle of the game, they stopped it to interview him. When his predecessor hit that goal, the dude just kept playing basketball, right? Like, Kobe, he just kept balling, right? Like, I'm saying that it feels to me like the league treats these guys differently. Like, a person like a Kobe, a person like a Jordan had to work that hard. And that these guys, it feels to me, they don't have to work that hard to get this kind of starred treatment. And it's become expectant that they're going to be treated that way. Do you agree with that or no?
I agree. They haven't proven themselves. Like Kobe and them didn't start having that diva mentality until they won some rings. Then they started. Not Kobe. Kobe always been cocky ass, so I can't really say that for Kobe.
Kobe complex.
But like a lot of these players, like LeBron, I'm gonna give him his credit. He didn't start becoming cocky until he won rings. Before that, like he was cocky because he knew he was that motherfucker. So I'm not denying that. that was a rightful cockiness
Yeah,
that
he was
had.
entitled from day one. When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hear this,
but he had that because he deserved it. I mean, when you're playing the All-American game in fucking high school, I mean, and you're being like wanted by everybody,
yeah,
that's just gonna come with it.
And you have to
Like
have a certain,
Like a Zion Williams being like, who the fuck is this?
yeah, I
We
mean,
love everybody.
there has to be a certain amount of cockiness, right? We enjoy that in a superstar, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody coming out and being like, we enjoy it in
But you
hip
gotta
hop, we
deserve
enjoy
it.
it everywhere. I know I'm the best. I know I'm the greatest, right? Like there has to be a certain amount of that, but you gotta earn it.
yeah. I
Mhm.
think
That part.
it's the fact that they have access to so much. You know, they have social media that wasn't there when Kobe played. It was later in his years, but it wasn't there for Jordan. And what you can do with social media now, it's crazy. You can reach out to fans. You have people
Mhm.
in your DMs. So that feedback that they get is so immediate that they don't feel like they need to be the greatest of all time. They can just be a role player and still get everything that comes with being a superstar. You know what I mean? They don't have to actually reach that pinnacle of winning a championship. That's my opinion. Where I'm seeing people like, not to name any names, but they
No, name
they get
names.
out of the playoffs and then they put up a picture of them on vacation. You know what I mean? Already, and that's something maybe players did it before, but it wasn't that immediate. You know what I mean? That now
Yeah.
you're following that times. You're still hurt by the loss, and this fool has already moved on. You
Jokic
know?
not even wanting to go to the
Get up all the
parade.
bit.
Yeah.
He good
Yeah,
now.
he's like, I'm good, man. Like,
I gotta get home. I gotta
yeah,
go
yeah,
home, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Going to my nice house in the Malibu Hills.
exactly.
Meanwhile, you just bought my jersey and we lost.
Yeah, and I'm getting made fun of in my group chat, and you're kicking it
All I
for
do
your
is turn off
10
my comments. I
points,
don't see anything.
right? Yeah,
But I think it's become a point where, like you said, Mitch, these players are just spoiled. They control the story because
Entitled.
they have social
yeah,
media. Um, they have their parents that are working for them in some situations who are not being honest with them, who are fucking giving them a pacifier and telling them what they're doing is right.
Mhm.
John Morant,
Mhm.
that's a big one. Wow.
Yeah.
John Morant,
Hopefully, yeah,
his father ain't been honest with him. You like how your son make it to one of the biggest platforms in the fucking world, and you allow him, especially once again, I'm gonna pull the race card. You are a black man and you have a son. The stereotype to America is black fathers aren't in their sons' lives. So here you are. You already exceeded that expectation. Now you made it. Now you let your son get out here and make all this money and become a thug
yeah,
when he wasn't that. You let him become what America said he is.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do better than that, man. Like,
Yeah. So is there anybody in the league that you see being the next Kobe, the next Jordans, anybody that's going to work that hard and achieve that
yeah,
kind of level?
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
yeah. Jason to me is a big laid down. I don't get the hype. I love the fact that he loves Kobe Bryant, but that last season, where he had an injury and just play through it. It's hard to get there. You know what I mean? And Cam will tell you that. Cam getting into a championship game and then kind of backing up and not showing the same intensity. It's hard to get there. And I see Jason Tatum. He has every skill, and you're right as far as his gym work ethic. It's there, but there's a piece to me I can't really figure it out with him, where he's just. I think Anthony Edwards to me is I would take him over Jason Tatum any day.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards' raw talent is just, it's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. That guy just has raw talent. And if he put in the work like Jordan or Kobe did, I think that guy would be dangerous.
Don't forget, he's only 22, so he has a long way to go.
Totally.
But I want to hear Davian. Do you disagree with Jason Tatum's my take on?
I disagree to the extent that there is something missing.
Yeah.
It's the team he's playing for that's missing. I know Boston is a very historical team, and you have that but you gotta have the city behind you, and I don't think he has the true support of the city behind
Yeah.
him. And I think you take him to a place like LA, and you put him there, provide a certain culture for him, and I think he thrives with the right people around him. I just think that you got to take, like, you took LeBron out of Cleveland and you put him in Miami. He won a ring there. He started excelling from that point on, and then went back to Cleveland. I would like to see Jason Tatum do something like that. Leave, go somewhere else, get some experience with some other people around you, some other big dogs around you, and then eventually go back to Boston, get a ring. That's just my take, but I think Jason Tatum is that guy.
Well, I'll personally look forward to seeing how basketball evolves. We can't argue that it's still exciting to watch these players with their raw talent, and there's some exciting guys out there to watch the NBA with. I agree with you, Davion, that I'm not as into it as I used to be. It's a little easier for me now that the Nuggets are doing well, and it's super enjoyable to watch a team that you've been supporting for literally decades finally do well. So that's helping me enjoy basketball more. But before that, yeah, no, I wasn't as into it as I used to be. And watching these guys, these big names hit their sunset time is again bittersweet. So I'll be curious to see if anyone steps up to that mantle and helps us to enjoy seeing the passion in professional sports again.
Yes. Alrighty, you guys know what time of day it is. We're going to be wrapping up this podcast, but before we go, we always got to drop you guys those great recommendations. I'm gonna go with a book. This book that I've been reading or listening to, it's been by one of my favorite comedians. You guys know him. His name is Kev on Stage. You guys know Kev on Stage?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a book. Him and his wife, they co-wrote a book.
Nice.
It's called Marriage Be Hard. Definitely a great book to recommend. I would send this to you guys. It talks about their triumphs, their ups, their downs through their marriage, how they went about communicating that, their problems with each other. They were college sweethearts, so they went through the trials and tribulations together. And now they run a company together, and they're actually writing a movie right now with Will Smith.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll make sure and link that in the podcast notes so our listeners, viewers can find where to get that. That sounds super interesting, man.
It's called Marriage Be Hard.
Marriage Be Hard. Nice.
And then we got Dennis with an amazing
I'm doing it.
Correct me.
Yeah, I'm doing an album this week. Yeah, it's an album that came out in 1999. I know I'm late to the game on this one, but it's new to me. It's called the New Ancient Strings. It's an album by these two West African artists, and they're playing the kora on there. Never heard of the instrument before until recently. This is an album that Donald Glover recommended on Twitter, and I went and checked it out. He said to listen to it outside, and it doesn't disappoint. I highly recommend it. New Ancient Strings.
New Ancient Strings, sweet. So yeah, I've got a movie this week, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and recommend Anatomy of a Fall. It was a fantastic film. It was one of the films nominated for Best Picture. It did win an Oscar this year, a couple Oscars this year. It is phenomenal. It is a crime drama that follows a husband and wife, where the husband winds up dead, and you don't see how he was killed. And it takes place in France, so it's a French film. It's got subtitles. Some of it's in English, but it does have subtitles as well. And it literally follows the trial of the wife, because society, the community, believes the wife killed him, and you don't know what happened. And so it's really cool because it's an inside look into the legal system, how the legal system operates when there really is not a whole lot of evidence, when it's your word against somebody else's word, and there was no one there to see what happened, how the court system judges that. how the court system can prosecute people based on very little evidence, and how that whole system works, the prosecution versus the defense. I thought it was an extremely realistic and poignant look at the flaws and strengths of the criminal justice system.
Nice. And what's the movie called one more time? for our viewers?
Anatomy of a Fall. Highly recommend it.
Anatomy of a Fall.
Yep.
Nice. Well, like always, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You guys want to check us out on our YouTube page, on every major platform where you can find YouTube podcast. Drop us comments, let us know what you guys want to hear, give us some feedback. We're open to it. We're just gonna keep on moving from there. So once again, guys, thank you for joining us. I'm your boy D, and I got my boy Dennis, and I got my boy Mitch.
All right, take it easy.
Nice.